Even the most committed viewers of one of the longest-running TV series ever, Gunsmoke, may not have noticed all the intriguing subtleties weaved throughout the show's episodes. Gunsmoke is full of surprises that still enthrall viewers today, from surprising celebrity cameos to quirky behind-the-scenes moments that molded the show. What are these undiscovered treasures, and how did they add to the illustrious reputation of the program? We reveal the small but important details in this video that helped establish Gunsmoke as a pioneer in the history of television. Prepare to uncover the mysteries that have been lying in wait. Consistently achieving success. As a television show, Gunsmoke aired from 1955 until 1975. In the 1950s, there was a great deal of westerns that were broadcast, but in the 1960s there were even fewer, and in the 1970s there were even fewer. Throughout the entirety of its existence, Gunsmoke was consistently regarded as the best and most popular of them all. Even if the western infatuation was beginning to die down, it was still a viewing by appointment. Changes were made to the show. Initially, Gunsmoke was broadcast on the radio. After that, it was a black and white show that lasted for half an hour. Afterward, it was a black and white show that lasted for 1 hour. Then came a color show that lasted for an hour. It evolved along with the times, and the fact that it was able to adjust to new circumstances is one of the reasons it still exists now. For a total of 16 seasons, Doc did not have a first name. Dr. Adams, also known as Doc, was the second lead character in Gunsmoke. It was only that he did not have a first name. The name Galen was finally revealed to be the name of the excellent doctor after 16 seasons had passed. Because the writers agreed that nobody knew the character better than Stone, Milburn Stone was allowed to choose the name for himself. One of the most prominent ancient Greek physicians and medical researchers was known by the surname Galen. In the beginning, Gunsmoke was a radio show. When it first began, Gunsmoke was a radio drama. There, as well, it had enormous popularity. Therefore, even though the producers made the intelligent decision to transition to television, they continued to broadcast the radio show for the first 6 years of the success of the television show. The radio program aired from 1952 to 1961. What John Wayne said was no. It was originally planned that John Wayne would portray the role of Matt Dillon in the film. A television schedule, on the other hand, is significantly more demanding than a film schedule, and Wayne simply did not feel like putting in that much effort. On the other hand, he did provide a recommendation for the show before the broadcast of its initial episode. The military service of James Arness. In 1943, James Arness was enlisted in the military and sent to serve in World War II. He received his training in Camp Wheeler, which is located in Georgia. After that, he was sent to North Africa and assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division in preparation for the invasion of Anzio. The machine gun fire that Arness received 10 days after the invasion caused him to sustain grave injuries, including the amputation of a portion of his foot. The Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 3 Bronze Stars, the World War II Victory Medal, and the Combat Infantry Badge were all awarded to him after he was medically discharged from the Army. As a result of Arness's war injuries, the shooting schedule was adjusted. According to the fact that James Arness had sustained injuries that rendered him unable to perform certain scenes during his service in World War II, the filming of Gunsmoke had to be adjusted according to this circumstance. Because the script required a significant number of scenes that involved walking and moving around, the crew had to begin filming early in the morning to avoid Arness's feet and knees being fatigued. Arness's physique was unable to keep up with the demands of a full day of filming those scenes because he had lost a portion of his foot during the battle. This marks the beginning of Arness's struggle with arthritis. Arness's combat injuries began to become more severe as the show continued to air for a longer period than originally planned. As a result of his severe arthritis, all of his sequences were scheduled to be shot in a single day. This was possible because of the severity of his condition. This made it possible for Arness to get a lot of relaxation on his days off, which was beneficial to his recovery. A persona for the radio. In the beginning, William Conrad was the one who portrayed the role of Matt Dillon, the main character of Gunsmoke, on public radio. Despite this, the producers made a modification when the show was adapted for television. The reason that James Arness was chosen for the role of Dillon rather than Conrad was because he was more attractive. Gary Busey is a very important figure in the history of the show Gunsmoke. In the episode of Gunsmoke that would turn out to be the third-to-last one, Gary Busey portrayed the part of Harv Daly, who was the protagonist. As a result of Daly's passing in the episode, he joined the ranks of the final character to be eliminated from Gunsmoke. From Madame to Miss. During her time on the Gunsmoke radio show, Miss Kitty Russell played the role of a professional madame. On the other hand, her occupation was practically never brought up on television, ever. Even though network executives and producers were aware that television had to be highly family-friendly, they decided to avoid any references to the subject. The opening scene of the show was modified due to politics. Beginning with the first episode of the series and continuing until the early 1970s, the show always begins with the same gunfight between Matt Dillon and another gunman. It wasn't until the anti-violence politics of the 1970s were so strong that it became unsustainable to portray a shootout on television every week that the show's introduction was altered. Joke in the opening scene. The moment that was shown during the opening credits, which was a shot of Matt Dillon squaring off against an unnamed gunman, became iconic. Yet those who were very perceptive might have recognized it from another well-known Western. High Noon, a classic film directed by Gary Cooper, was shot on this street, which is the same major street itself. Additionally, during filming of one of the takes for the beginning, James Arness enabled the gunman to win, tricking the film team and getting a nice laugh out of everyone. The movie Gunsmoke was a setback from the film Gilligan's Island. The decision to terminate one of CBS's most popular shows was made in 1967. At first, it decided to go with Gunsmoke. Not only did the viewers have a fit when they learned about this, but a few of the officials at the network who were fans of the Western also had a tantrum. The result was that CBS decided to terminate Gilligan's Island and relocate Gunsmoke to Monday nights rather than Saturday nights, where it had previously been broadcast. A major television record is held by Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke had a total of 635 episodes, which was the record for the most episodes ever produced for primetime. Nevertheless, The Simpsons became victorious in the year 2018. Even though Gunsmoke was just in its 20th season, The Simpsons is currently in its 30th season and has already shown around 650 episodes. No closing statement. After the conclusion of the 1975 season, the creators of the show were completely unaware that the network intended to cancel the show. As a result, there was neither a concluding storyline nor an episode that took place at the end of the longest-running show on primetime television. They concluded that season just like any other. James Arness and Milburn Stone appeared in every episode. James Arness appeared in every episode, and Milburn Stone came extremely close to achieving the same level of success as James Arness in reaching that milestone. After suffering a heart attack in 1971, Stone was only able to watch 6 episodes of the show while he was recovering from his illness. This guy was a tough one. Horrible arthritis was a problem for James Arness. During the final 10 years of production, James Arness's arthritis was so severe that the show had to shoot all of his episode scenes on a single day. This allowed him to have the necessary healing time between shootings, which was 1 week. Glenn Strange's film career came to an end with the release of Gunsmoke. Glenn Strange, a well-known actor and television personality, completed his career with the film Gunsmoke. While he began his career in Hollywood in the 1930s, it wasn't until the 1940s that it started to take off. During that period, Strange succeeded Boris Karloff as the actor for the role of Frankenstein and went on to play the monster in several films simultaneously. His work on Gunsmoke began in the 1960s and continued until he died in 1973. It is not true that Amanda Blake was the first Miss Kitty Russell figure. If the producers had their way, Blake would not have been cast in the character of Kathleen Kitty Russell in the show. Initially, the actress Polly Bond was considered for the role of that character. Bond's family was involved in the entertainment industry, and she began debuting in westerns when she was 11 years old. It was the role on Gunsmoke that would have catapulted her to fame, but she declined the opportunity. The part was taken over by Blake, and the rest, as they say, is history. The cast was completely unaware that the show had been canceled. Every show would inevitably come to an end at some point, but how Gunsmoke concluded was so terrible. There was no communication between the show's actors and the cancellation of the show. Because it had already been covered in the trade media, James Arness was able to confirm that the producers had informed him about it many years later. Many actors were considered for the role of Matt Dillon by the producers. Before James Arness took on the legendary role, the producers were not convinced that he or anybody else would be a good fit for the position. The role was auditioned for by several performers, including Raymond Burr and Denver Pyle. They were all taken into consideration as possible candidates for the post. At some point in time, Arness was able to come through and secure the role. For 4 years, the show was the most popular. From 1957 to 1961, Gunsmoke was the most popular show on television in terms of ratings. Following that, the producers made a significant adjustment. The program went from being a half-hour show to being a full hour for the duration of the show. As a direct consequence of this, the show's ratings went down. During the latter half of the 1960s and the early 1970s, it started to gain more popularity, although the format shift was a crucial factor in its increased popularity. They produced 5 films. After some time had passed, the ensemble got back together to work on 5 films that were developed specifically for television. Gunsmoke, Return to Dodge, 1987, Gunsmoke, The Last Apache, 1990, Gunsmoke, To the Last Man, 1992, Gunsmoke, The Long Ride, 1993, and Gunsmoke, One Man's Justice, 1994, were some of the films that were released in the series throughout the years. Even though Arness appeared in all 5 films, none of them received positive reviews from film critics. Get the hell out of Dodge. The phrase, "get the hell out of Dodge," was used to encourage antagonists during the entirety of Gunsmoke's run. This phrase was a reference to the fact that the show was set in Dodge City, Kansas. This expression became well known as a result of the film Gunsmoke. The phrase was first used by adolescents in the 1960s and 1970s about departing a location, and it is still used today, although it is not used nearly as frequently as it was over several decades. Rather than being a lover, Matt Dillon was a fighter. Throughout the show's 20-year run, which spanned 635 episodes, Matt Dillon, James Arness, only kissed a lady once, and it took a very, very long time for that to happen. In the 3rd episode of the 19th season, which was appropriately titled Matt's Love Story, Dillon had a passionate conversation with Michael Learned, who played the role of Mike Yardner and was featured in the episode. Learned also made a cameo appearance in the 2nd episode of that season and 17 years later in the television movie Gunsmoke, The Last Apache, 1990. She brought her character back to life. After receiving an Emmy for her portrayal as Olivia Walton in The Waltons, Learned poses with her co-star Richard Thomas in the photograph that can be found above. The photograph was taken in 1973. Chester's limp. Where did it come from? On the commentary track of the Gunsmoke DVD, Dennis Weaver, who portrayed Chester, explained the reason why his character did not carry a gun throughout the seasons of the show. Contrary to what one might expect, given that the show's name is Gunsmoke, the actor disclosed that the show's intention was for Chester to lead a peaceful life. In addition to this, he was informed that he needed to possess a quality that set him apart from Matt Dillon and made him stand out from the crowd. After Weaver made the decision that Chester ought to have a limp, the rest, as they say, is history. About that limp. While discussing the limp in greater detail on the DVD commentary, Dennis Weaver, right, stated that he eventually grew to regret the decision he had made to have his character possess that characteristic. Weaver did not know how challenging it would be to act out the limp episode after episode after episode. To be accurate, there were 290 episodes when he first came up with the idea. It was a burden that Weaver had to bear, and it had a huge impact on his time filming. Versatility and willingness on the part of Ken Curtis. Gunsmoke featured Ken Curtis in a total of 307 episodes between the years 1959 and 1975. He was well known for his role as Festus, but he also played several other roles throughout his lengthy run on the show. The character of an Indian was played by Curtis in one of the first 30-minute episodes. Throughout the series' run, he played the role of a Texas cattleman who, after becoming friends with Chester, played by Dennis Weaver, found himself murdered. You are a member of the team. With Gunsmoke and Star Trek in between. It is a coincidence that all 4 senior officers who featured on the first Star Trek television series, which aired in 1966, also appeared in various episodes of Gunsmoke throughout the show's existence. William Shatner, the actor who played Captain Kirk, appeared in an episode from Season 12. DeForest Kelley, who played Dr. McCoy, appeared in an episode from Season 1. James Doohan, who played Scotty, appeared in an episode from Season 8, and Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, appeared in 4 episodes, 1 in Season 7, 2 in Season 8, and 1 in Season 11. The well-known accent of Dennis Weaver. Chester was one of the most well-liked characters on the show, and he made an appearance in 290 episodes throughout its run. On the other hand, Dennis Weaver just almost missed out on the role. This actor claims that his very first audition was a complete and utter failure. He pleaded with the filmmakers to grant him another opportunity. They eventually gave in, and he tried out once more, but this time he used his well-known country accent than before. They gushed about it, and Weaver was cast in the role. Want to go for 700? A significant number of members of the cast and production crew were taken aback by the decision to end Gunsmoke. Those who worked on the show had a complete expectation that fresh episodes would be filmed the next year, following the conclusion of the 21st season, and they even anticipated that the show would continue for at least 3 more seasons. There was a general agreement among the cast and crew that the producers would make it their goal to keep the show running until the series reached its 700th episode at the very least. Arness, the complete idiot? Ben Bates, who was James Arness's stunt double, stated that even though Matt Dillon appeared to take a no-nonsense attitude to the law, James Arness was quite the goofball on set. According to Wikipedia, Bates recalled that Arness would frequently laugh from his toes to the top of his head. Bates also mentioned that there were instances when shooting on set would be halted because Arness would acquire uncontrollable giggles while filming his sequences. Is the name of Dillon's horse? If you are a major fan of Gunsmoke, you have likely seen the entire series, and many episodes more than once. On the other hand, there is one piece of knowledge that is only stated once in all of those more than 630 episodes, and that is the name of Dillon's horse. Festus, played by Ken Curtis, makes a direct reference to the Dillon family's horse in one of the episodes. Through the entirety of the show's run, this was the only instance in which the animal was referred to by its name. What is the name of the horse that Marshall Dillon rides? Buck. As a candidate for the role, John Wayne suggested James. As soon as John Wayne was presented with the opportunity to play the character in Gunsmoke, he suggested and convinced his close buddy, James Arness, to accept the job. When Arness first considered accepting the role, He was apprehensive to do so because many people believed that it would put his career in jeopardy. However, Wayne held a contrary viewpoint and managed to convince him to adopt it. At Vidgo, the streamed video. As one of the most well-known and longest-running television shows in the history of television, Gunsmoke reigns supreme. This is an example of a Western drama series, which classifies it as such. In addition to having seasons and episodes, it is the show that has been running the longest, second only to The Simpsons. Gunsmoke is widely considered to be the first of the genre's famous Western dramas. In addition to this, it made it possible for actors who were already well-known and desired a part in the action to get noticed before they became well-known. Dodge City cowboys speak out on the radio and television. Before the well-known comic strip Gunsmoke, which was also a British comic strip, there was a television program called Gun Law that was developed. The radio program made its debut in 1952 and continued to air concurrently with the television program until 1961, when it was canceled after a total of 400 episodes. However, in contrast to the television drama, Gun Law was more grounded in reality, with plot lines that were frequently gloomy and painful rather than having beautiful Hollywood endings. Actors in Hollywood are captivated by Dodge City. To take part in the shootouts and wild times that took place at the lengthy ranch saloon, a lengthy list of famous people journeyed up to Dodge City to experience the crazy West. Characters from Star Trek, such as Kirk and Spock, as well as Peter, Jan, and Cindy from the Brady Bunch, appeared as special guests in episodes that were more suitable for families. During the years 1962 through 1965, Burt Reynolds played the role of Quint Asper, a character who was the first half-native of the area. He is the most laborious cowboy in the entertainment industry. It was subsequently determined that James Arness, a former military buddy of John Wayne's, would play the role of Matt Dillon. The fact that he has the best work ethic is in addition to the fact that he has the appearance of a genuine war hero. Because he was the only actor on the show who appeared in every episode, he established himself as the most loyal cowboy on the show. In the real world, James Arness is a champion. James Arness, a well-liked television personality who served on the front lines in 1944 and received bullet wounds to the lower leg and foot during the Battle of Anzio in Italy, fought in actual wars during World War II before taking on the role of Marshal Matt Dillon, a character who dealt with criminals from the Wild West. In recognition of his bravery in battle, he was awarded the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart, and upon his return to the United States, he was acclaimed as a war hero. He suffered from arthritic discomfort and agony that would last a lifetime as a result of the injuries, which restricted his time spent filming. As a result, the scenes that featured him strolling were shot in the morning and for a limited amount of time.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon